The Pediatric Lounge, a podcast taking you behind the door of the physician's lounge to get a deeper insight into just what docs are talking about today. From the clinically profound to the wonderfully routine and everything in between. I'm thrilled to start today with some incredible news from the Leadership Conference. Resolution number 29 has passed, with more than 2/3 support from our leadership. I want to give a special thanks to Peter Pogaskar, immediate past president of Rhode Island, AAP, Dr. Jesse Hackle, current chair of the Committee on Workforce, along with our chapter presidents from California, Colorado, and Missouri, and the Executive Committee of Endocrinology for their tireless advocacy. This groundbreaking resolution calls for the AAP to endorse screening guidelines established by ISPAD and ADA. Although not binding on the board, here's why this matters so much. With a simple point-of-care finger prick testing, we can prevent 11,000 cases of DKA at presentation and avoid those devastating PICU admissions. Think about what this means. Thousands of little ones will be spared the trauma of diabetic ketoacidosis and its complications, including cerebral edema and death. Their families will have a much softer landing into managing this disease. But wait, there's more to celebrate as summer winds down, and I cannot believe we're past Labor Day. I have an incredible busy September ahead, and I hope to see some of you along the way. I am off to Denver on Thursday, September 25th to join the world's premier diabetes researchers and our favorite Dr. Katie Schaefer from Bloom Peds in Michigan for the mini fellowship Prevent the Crisis, a free evidence-based CME program designed to help pediatricians prevent decay and provide better care for our patients, along with Dr. Kimber Simmons, who will be leading this session. Again, it's free. And it has CME and its own bias and real evidence-based medicine. I wish we had more of that, and I really do hope that you join us for that one-day mini fellowship. So I hope to see you in Denver. After all, we pediatricians are the best. Now let's dive into today's show. Good morning, George. It's Tuesday morning. We have another podcast and a phenomenal guest. A physician who does stand-up comedy.
Yes. Today I'd like to introduce Dr. Brad Nieder, and the topic of discussion is From Stethoscope to Stand-Up, the Journey of the Healthy Humorist. I met Dr. Nieder at the Office Practicum conference last year in Las Vegas, and we were actually recording the podcast, and I saw him in the corner jumping up and down and preparing for his presentation. And then after we finished our podcast, I walked in, caught the end of his podcast, of his presentation. It was pretty cool. Take it away, Herb. The intro? I'll do it. Dr. Brad Nieder is known as the Healthy Humorist. He's a physician, a clean comedian, and a keynote speaker who entertains and inspires audiences nationwide. He blends his medical background with a sharp sense of humor. He delivers lively programs that highlight the health benefits of laughter, stress relief, and resilience. He's often described as the Jerry Seinfeld with an MD. Dr. Brad has been helping people live and work healthier while laughing along the way for over 20 years. So we start the podcast all the time with, why did you become a physician? First.
Why did I become a physician? First, nice to be with you both. Thank you so much for having me. And George, I do remember we were in Las Vegas together several months ago, and I do my little pre-show ritual where I try to get a little energy. And so I find a quiet hallway or some space where I can do some jumping jacks or run around a little bit before I take the stage. And I found what I thought was an empty room and started doing that. And then I noticed you off in the corner, and you were doing a broadcast. You were recording an episode, and then we met afterwards. Yeah, nice to see you again. And Jerry Seinfeld actually was in Vegas the same time we were for the Office Practicum user group. So Jerry was there in the Coliseum doing some shows. So I like to think there were two top tier funny guys in Caesar's Palace that weekend. But But back to your question, why did I become a doctor? I think it's probably not unlike the answers you get from many of your guests. It certainly checked a lot of boxes. You're helping people and you're doing something that feels important and worthwhile, and it's interesting, it's challenging. I was a smart guy, a good student, and so that's one of the options available to you is medicine, and it's broad, right? There's many specialties, whether you like to work primarily with your brain or your hands, you can find that fit for yourself in medicine, and then there's offshoots as well if you're not going to be involved in clinical work. It seemed to be a good fit. Like I said, it checked a lot of boxes, and the rational side of me said, yeah, this seems like a good thing to do. You make a good living. Pediatricians might dispute that these days. Primary care docs in general might dispute that these days, but in general, docs make a good living. And again, you're helping people. It's important work. It's worthwhile, so forth. And so I felt, yes, would be a
Pretty
good
cool.
career for me. Yeah.
Let's start with the origin of your story. How did you go from practicing clinical medicine to becoming a stand-up comedian and then becoming a motivational speaker? That should be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, the rational part of me, it seemed to be a good fit, but I also had this creative side and this desire and this enjoyment of writing and performing. And so I had written funny things in my high school newspaper. In college, I did improv, and then I started doing open mic night stand-up comedy. And I started that slightly before I got into med school. And while I was in med school, I kept it up. I live in Denver. I still live in Denver now. I went to med school here at the University of Colorado. So during med school, would go to the open mic nights at the comedy club in downtown Denver, and I would perform. And at first, I kept it a secret from my med school classmates, and then word got out, and people would come see me when I was performing. And I told jokes about being a med student and so forth. And it was a nice outlet to have during med school. But I also began to worry, am I on the right path here? In fact, I've told this story before that I went and talked to one of the deans of the med school. And I said, I don't seem as committed to this as everybody else does. I remember the first big anatomy test, first year of med school. One of my good high school friends was getting married in Dallas, and I went to the wedding, had a great time, saw my old friends, we were drinking, having a great weekend. The first anatomy test was that Monday or Tuesday. Everybody was cramming. My study group was cramming the whole weekend in the anatomy lab, and I was out having a good time. And I got back and I failed the test. I failed my first med school test. But there was this battle, like, I'm not going to be consumed by this. I'm still going to have a life. I'm still going to do my stand-up act. I'm going to write. I'm going to perform. And there seemed to be this battle. So I spoke to the dean quite candidly, and I said, I'm not sure I'm as committed to this as everybody else. And he said, first of all, don't compare yourself you don't know what's going on in the head of everybody in that lecture hall. And second of all, ride two horses. That was his phrase that has stuck with me all these years. He said, ride two horses. He said, if you can pass your classes, and again, I didn't pass that first test, but he said, if you can pass your classes, because med school in most places is pass fail, right? You can get honors as well. And I was not getting honors, but you either pass or fail. There's the old joke. What do you call the person who graduates last in his medical school class? Doctor, right? So I took that philosophy. I was like, hey, as long as I pass, I trust that they know I know enough that I can be a physician. I could be a doctor. That was my philosophy, that he said, if you can do your stand-up and have your other interests and still pass your classes, go for it. And don't compare yourself to everybody else. But there was these doubts early on. And each year I thought maybe this first year of med school, where I went to CU, it was pretty much the conventional standard curriculum. It was not the organs-based curriculum that I think a lot of schools have maybe moved to in the last couple of decades. But we learned physiology and we learned anatomy the first year. And then they said, it really gets interesting the next year. You learn pathology and pathophysiology. I thought, okay, maybe I'll like it more then. And then the third year, they say, oh, now you start doing clinical work. Now you'll really start. So every year I kept thinking, okay, this will click for me. I'll get in a groove here soon. And each year went by and I still had doubts and I still had this creative urge going. And then as an intern, it all came to a head. A friend of mine who was a funny motivational speaker who would come see me in Denver perform, he came to Richmond. Dr. Herb, I think you and I have that in common. I don't know if you're still in Richmond, but I think you spent some time there at some point, right?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was an intern in Richmond and he came through town and he had always said to me, your material is clean, you're likable, you could do well in the corporate speaking world, which
Right.
was totally foreign to me. But I picked his brain about it that intern year. And I said, I feel like I might be on the wrong path. I miss all the creative stuff. I miss the comedy. I haven't been able to do it at all right now as a resident. And so he planted that seed, and eventually I made an agonizing decision. It was agonizing, but I made the decision to leave.
So is the comedy club still there in Denver? It seems like a lot of the comedy clubs have closed down.
The one where I performed, the main one, Comedy Works, which is really a nationally known club and a favorite among a lot of top headlining comedians. It is still there in downtown Denver. They actually have a second one in the tech center area, the south of town. So they have managed to survive COVID and survive the economic downturn of downtown Denver, as a lot of cities have experienced, but they are still going. Yes.
And so do you still perform there, or you're done on that side of your career?
Yeah, most of where I perform now is at conventions and conferences and meetings. Most of them are healthcare industry events, like where I met George. And so it's very rare. It's been a few years. I would do it if a friend of mine were coming into town and performing at the club, and he'd alert me a couple months ahead of time and say, hey, I'm headlining at Comedy Works. You want to MC the shows? And then I would do that. But it's been a while. It's rare that I'm at a comedy club these last few years.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of physicians the senior physicians, that all they knew was medicine. They didn't know how to do it. My senior partner, he retired. He said, one day you're going to come to working to see me slouched over this chair dead. That's when I'm done. But he had no other hobbies, no nothing. I like the creative stuff. You could see I have the guitars in the background. I play guitar once a week in two bands, but that doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
I pay to play. It's good to have creation and to do things other than Dr. Bravo is a computer nerd and a spreadsheet junkie. So his joy is making spreadsheets and data analytics. It's weird, but somebody. We see patients though. I see more patients. The Bravo, he does the medicine as a hobby. Anyway, let's get into this. So what role do you think humor has in creating a positive clinic or hospital environment, staff and patient care and so forth? I guess it helps with patient satisfaction. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. First, you see companies outside of healthcare that have embraced humor and laughter as part of their culture. Southwest Airlines and Zappos, and actually DaVita is a healthcare company. That's part of one of their 7 core tenets is fun in the workplace. And so, my dad is a retired anesthesiologist, and he tells stories about, this goes back decades, but he said he and his docs had such camaraderie, and there were jokes in the OR and there were jokes in the doctor's lounge, and it was fun. Being at work was fun. You were with your friends and there was this great atmosphere. And he said over the years that he practiced that sort of, that was lost as corporate entities got involved in healthcare and the insurance companies dictated how you do things. And all those things you hear doctors complain about now. My dad saw that transition, and it got to a point when he retired that it no longer was fun. But his stories from the early days, talk about a workplace culture that was fun and where the staff bonded and they were happy to be there. And certainly in pediatrics, I think lends itself to a certain amount of silliness and fun. You're dealing with kids. Kids are silly. Kids like jokes. Kids like toys. And I think it lends itself to that. And I think that probably attracts a lot of pediatricians to the field. So I think certainly in the healthcare space, it can be a real positive to have some humor and some laughs at work. And I think, again, in pediatrics, more so than in other medical specialties, you probably see that.
Right. I remember that movie. Remember that movie, Patch Adams, with
Yeah.
well, he worked in the pediatric the cancer ward, and he got everybody happy, but he was always scolded by the academy.
Right.
You're here to be serious. You have to fix things. You can't joke around. I think he was even expelled, right, at one point from school.
He may have been. He may have
Yeah.
been Patch Adams. And yeah, that's a great movie. And people bring that up to me all the time.
Yeah.
That Robin Williams was great in that. I had the actual Patch Adams is still around. I think he has his Gesundheit Institute is in West Virginia, maybe I want to say. And he lectures. I've heard he's become a grumpy old guy that he's saying, like Dr. Broff. I don't know. He's smiling.
Comedy can be very dangerous, particularly in today's non-tolerant world.
Yeah.
All you have to say is the wrong thing, and you're labeled a disruptive physician, and out you go.
Right.
But my horror story about comedy, and this is why you have to be very careful if you're a physician and want to be funny at the same time, was when I was a ER director for the pediatric ER, one of the nursing directors had instituted a policy that for Halloween, all the nurses would dress up. And it was great. People really enjoyed it until just before I got there, and until Christy Clonch was dressed as a bunny for Halloween. And a patient came in full arrest and they couldn't resuscitate him. And there she was trying to explain to the family in a bunny outfit for Halloween that their loved one had passed. And so after that, I never saw him get dressed up, but after that, there was no dressing up in the ER. Well, because it was she said she felt horrible. She felt horrible, but they were just trying to have a fun environment in a very stressful environment. So it's a tough world, right? You can't always win, but sometimes it backfires on you.
Yeah.
But obviously comedy is very important, not only in healthcare, but in your personal life. And I think there are some really good peer review studies that people that remain optimistic through their journey in different chronic diseases have better outcomes than those that don't laugh and don't enjoy life. And so whenever you can bring that out in a human being, it's very important. I'm just not funny.
No, but you're right. The health benefits of humor and laughter have been documented in a number of good studies. And from stress reduction, they've measured cortisol and pain management, right? Patients who watch comedy videos and laugh, they had a higher tolerance to pain, a higher pain threshold, didn't require as much morphine and Percocet. We've got this opioid addiction crisis in this country. And maybe if folks were laughing a little bit, that could do a small part in helping us get over putting so many patients on these narcotic addictive medications. So yeah, stress management, pain management, immune boost. We get an immune boost out of Loma Linda University. There's a researcher who's done many studies on IgA and T cells, and we all got a refresher in immunology during COVID. So yeah, the immune system gets a boost as well, and get a little workout. You burn some calories, the facial muscles, where we hold a lot of that tension and stress. So yeah, health benefits from humor and laughter. And although that attempt in your ER with the bunny suit failed miserably.
And that was just something that happened. The people were well intended.
Yeah. I don't know if your loved one dies. I'm not quite sure. All the people that do study this, as you say, people remember exactly what you were wearing, what frames you had on your face, what first words you said. If your loved one dies, I'm not quite sure. Well, however you're dressed, it makes a difference at that point. You're still distraught.
But I think it's a negative outcome, like a lawsuit.
Yeah, but the nurse, the nursing director felt terrible. I'm not quite sure that the family felt any worse. Their loved one's dead, so you're very unhappy. But from the nursing director perspective, she felt horrible that she wasn't respecting the family properly. So anyhow, but I have a couple of really off the wall questions.
Yeah.
Do you think that Botox? Does it, all these Botox people, do they have less laughter than the non-Botox people when you're out there in the audience? Do you see the difference?
Yeah, they laugh, but you can't tell. You're right. They're frozen there. They laugh, cry, but you can't even tell. They're just looking at you like a robot.
Does that throw you off of your game when you're trying to motivate or be funny?
And you see just a bunch of blank faces there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how many of my audience members have had Botox, but if I'm staring at a lot of blank faces, that's usually not a good sign that my comedy isn't landing. Yeah, doing the Botox convention would be an interesting crowd. And then I wouldn't
These would
know
be,
if the comedy's landing or not, or are they all just frozen with their faces like this? Huh?
Yeah.
because they say they're starting at 25 years of age now. It's like they're
To get
starting.
Botox?
Yeah. Yeah. The theory is that you want to start it before you get any wrinkle lines.
Yeah.
And that's the most effective thing. And I'm like, I wonder what it does, because everything you said is true, right? Just standing in front of a mirror and smiling
Right.
improves your mental health. It just does. But if your facial expression is not there and you're smiling and you're not really seeing the smile, what does that do?
That's a good point. That's a good point. By the way, I know we've got a lot of listeners, but you also put this on YouTube. So as I'm looking at us all right now, I see, I don't know, I've got some lines here, but maybe it's all our cameras are smoothing us out a little bit, but
Definitely.
I like the smile lines. I like the wrinkles. I think that's a nice sign as we all get older.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
The other thing that's fascinating is not so much humor, but it's fascinating me. I can't get this out of my head, is that Pan Am, which was like the best airline ever, they perfected the smile. So I'm not sure, what am I supposed to call the people that help you on the plane anymore? But
Flight
The
attendants.
flight
the
attendant.
flight attendants. Yeah, I can't get that wrong because people will hate. But
Back then it was the stewardesses.
but you can't say that. Oh my
You can't
God.
say that. No.
Oh my
And then
God.
there's a steward.
Oh Jesus, how inappropriate. And but when they were in training, they had to put a pencil in their mouth, and that created the Pan Am smile, which
Right.
is not in between their teeth. Between their teeth.
Ah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the perfect smile because it's not too sexy, it's not sensual, and it's not disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine going, like, being an intern and having the chairman tell you, everybody put a pencil in your mouth, and that's a perfect smile. That's how you're going to greet the patients when they come in.
I have seen a guy on YouTube do this. And again, for those who were listening, I was demonstrating on the video here, but I have seen it. Somebody sent me a video of a guy doing that on the street, and he would encourage people to put the pen there and hold it there and force a smile. And and it wound up, they feel good and you get silly and you laugh. And
Apparently
like you said,
that's the perfect smile. For those
Okay.
of you that are crabby and cranky, that's how you practice a perfect smile.
Yeah. I
I'm
remember
gonna look that up. I might add that to my routine. I'm gonna look that up. The Pan Am smile.
Yeah.
it's
No,
fascinating.
smiling is good. I smile all the time. That's what I'm known for. And I'm always.
What are you talking about?
I smile when I go to work. I don't go to work like you cranky. You're cranky before you step in the door.
It's like the odd couple here.
Exactly. Which one is Herb and which one is me, do you think?
What were their names? The guys?
He's Felix, the uptight
Felix.
one.
Felix
And I'm Oscar, the nice one, the cool one.
Felix and Oscar.
Yeah, except
Walter
that
Matthau and
except that George doesn't know George doesn't know what happens on Sunday afternoons in America during the fall. He has no clue. He's never read a newspaper with a sports section on it or watched a football game.
All right. So what?
he plays
Well,
guitar though. I see
well,
the guitar.
But Oscar was a reporter for sports. That's all he did.
Anyway, trust is important with families.
Yeah.
How critical is humor to help to develop this physician-patient relationship, do you think, when you walk into a room?
Important, yes, but certainly secondary to competence, to knowledge, to the new parent who comes to the pediatrician's office and has a kid with a fever and who's fussy. she or he, they're not interested in jokes from the pediatrician right there. They want to know, all right, I've got somebody who knows how to deal with this, who's competent, who's knowledgeable. Yeah. And in the case of the family member dying in the ER, certainly you want compassion rather than somebody in a bunny suit. Yeah. But again, pediatrics, you're seeing kids for 18 years or more, right? And you develop a relationship with the families, with the kids, with the parent. And at a sick visit with a scared parent, no, you don't want to be joking around. But over time, I think it is important to establish that rapport and that relationship. And when they come in for wellness checks, and as you get to know them, I certainly think it's a worthwhile endeavor to have some humor and to have some laughter. You mentioned, I think you said something about quality scores, George, and yeah, the robotic doc who's just in the chart and no personality, no bedside manner, they don't score too well, whether it's on Yelp or whether it's on a formal Press Ganey survey. And if you're able to smile and elicit a smile or elicit laughter or respond with laughter, I think that goes a long way in developing the patient-doctor relationship or the parent-doctor relationship. So I do think there's certainly room for humor and laughter, and it is an important piece of
Yeah,
establishing.
I remember when my father was ill, he was in the intensive care unit back in January, he passed away.
I'm sorry.
Critical time, a critical place. We had the senior physician that knew empathy. He knew how to speak. He knew how to talk to us. He giggled a little bit, but not when it was inappropriate. And then towards the end, we had the younger physician that was basically robotic. He felt nothing. He did his job.
Yeah.
He really did his job. But me as a family member, I appreciated the guy that had empathy towards the family. We knew
Yeah.
that was nothing to do. We knew there was nothing to do. But
Yeah.
he made little comments, not jokes. He wasn't joking, but he reached out to the family in a way that he touched the people. And the young
Right.
physician that probably may have been a better physician, I don't know. Nothing, zero.
Yeah.
But he did his job. So we got to find a happy place. And I think that comes with experience.
Right.
You know when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
Well,
And we're there all the time. So
I
we
think
need-
there's personality types too. There's people that are very smart, but they're introverts and very shy.
Yeah.
But I find that what works both on public speaking and in the exam room is when shared experiences are funny, you can make fun of yourself.
Right.
yeah.
And that's a way to bring the audience in because everybody likes to laugh at me. They just
Right.
don't like it when I laugh at you. And one of the ones I say a lot, because it really is funny, is when parents are getting all upset about potty training. I'm like, first, I really have never seen anybody go to college in diapers. This is a problem that solves itself. But let's
Right.
be real. There is a parabolic curve to life. We all start in diapers.
Right.
At some point, we grow out of diapers. Then most of us guys go to college and end up needing a diaper. But we
Yeah.
outgrow that stage of life by the time we get a wife. We don't wear diapers again and we don't soil ourselves anymore. Regrettably, at some point in life, we end up in a nursing home and wearing diapers again. Who knows what our journey will be? And people laugh at that because it is a shared experience. If you're a parent, you know that you outgrew the diaper because you went to school, you weren't wearing a diaper. You knew that
Right.
you might have done some silly things in college. And then now you're a husband or a wife or, a couple and you have a kid and you're responsible, but the kid's in diapers. And it's just a temporary phase and it'll get better.
I think it's how you present it, Herb.
It's a shared experience because we've
Yeah,
all had that
I know, but
experience.
it's not offensive.
No, because I'm making fun of myself,
Yeah.
how immature I was in college.
Yeah.
And everybody can laugh about that. But
Yeah.
look, I'm still here and I'm doing okay. And I think so. That kind of humor, I think, is very good in the exam room at the appropriate time.
But it does help with relationship, the physician-patient relationship. I get a lot of patients that come in that were old-time patients, and they'd walk in, the father would walk in. I hadn't seen him in a while. He'd come in and say, "Hey, doc, when did all that gray hair come? You didn't have it before." But the interesting thing is, he's usually a bald guy. I said, but at least I got it up top. This dynamic, about nobody got offended with that, but I think that's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think Dr. Herb has a bit here. I think he's got a bit. You said, George, he wasn't funny, but I think he's got a routine there with the diapers. And yeah, you're right. And self-deprecating humor, that's often a great way to go. Again, you're making fun of yourself. Again, you could take that too far. Again, the patients want to know they've got somebody who's competent and
Yeah.
not a klutz and not an idiot. And so you don't want to present yourself in too clownish a manner. But yeah, self-deprecating humor is a great way to go when you make yourself the butt of the joke. That's usually pretty safe rather than target
I think like
somebody
one
else.
or two statements and then you go on with your business of medicine, that's okay. If it's just nonstop joking around, then you're horsing around.
Yeah.
But I guess humor can also be used to like decompress like stressful events and make people less anxious. What are your thoughts on that? Could that help? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. We touched on stress hormones, stress management. And the first thing that comes to mind for me talking about pediatrics is clowns, medical clowns. See that a lot in pediatric hospitals. And again, there've been studies on medical clowns, and they certainly reduce anxiety for kids during stressful encounters, during procedures, during needle sticks, during imaging. They send the clowns in and they have a great effect on helping the kids. It's a
hospitals are developing what's called the child life departments, where they have
Yeah.
like social workers or child life specialists that come in and they help the children when they're getting the IVs put in or a procedure done to help reduce some of the stress. And I think those hospitals that have child life, they tend to get better scoring
Yeah.
patient satisfaction reports. I remember when I was a kid, I was admitted when I was like in third grade. I was afraid of needle sticks, probably up until medical school, through medical school.
What
Yet
do
I
you
was doing
mean?
needle sticks.
What? Tell the audience the truth.
What?
You still are afraid of needle sticks.
Stop it.
Oh, come on. Be
But
honest.
no, stop it.
You don't
I-
cry anymore, but you whine before it.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about physician burnout and resilience. What tips can you share with our colleagues, pediatricians, to help them develop their life through not comedy, but through humor and to help them to not burn out? Because I see a lot of unhappy doctors out there. What can they do in their own life?
Yeah, there are a lot of unhappy doctors right now. It's a sad state of affairs. And I often get inquiries, I get calls saying, "Hey, we need to do a burnout event. We need a burnout speaker. Can you come in?" And I don't have the 10-point plan on how to make docs' lives better. And there's a lot to that and dealing with administration and changing policies and so forth. But I feel like I'm a piece of it. And that piece is, hey, there's a lot of frustrations in medicine right now, but there's still humor and absurdity too. And so if you turn on that part of your brain that says, you know what, the way we talk, the way this policy is, this new study is a bit ridiculous, whatever it is, there's still humor and absurdity that can be found in healthcare. Mel Brooks said, "Life literally abounds in comedy if you just look around." And Dr. Seuss, the pediatricians are all acquainted with Dr. Seuss, right? He said, "From here to there to here, funny things are everywhere," right? And those guys are right. And even a serious doc, Dr. Viktor Frankl. I quote Dr. Viktor Frankl. I don't know if Dr. Viktor Frankl wrote a great book, Man's Search for Meaning. He said, "I never would have made it if I could not have laughed. It lifted me momentarily out of this horrible situation, just enough to make it livable." And if you don't know him or his story and you're wondering, what was he going through? Was that a pandemic? What was it? No, he was in a concentration camp. And he wrote about how laughter, something silly, would give him a momentary feeling of escape. So I think with docs burning out and frustrated, if Viktor Frankl could laugh in his circumstance, I think we can still find laughter in medicine today. So I say, try to find the humor, try to find the absurdity, laugh at yourself again, to bring that up, the self-deprecating humor. We make mistakes. We say the wrong thing. We make a paperwork error. We get ourselves in situations that are ridiculous. And if you laugh at yourself, That's a step in the right direction. Smiling, we talked about that. Put a smile on your face. You're at work, you feel frustrated. Dr. George, you and I were talking beforehand about going into the room with a smile. First of all, if you're frustrated and stressed and down and in a bad mood, you put a smile on your face, look at the mirror, you might notice, hey, I feel a little better. And you might brighten the day of whomever is going to see that smile. Maybe it's a colleague in clinic, or maybe it's a patient or a parent or a stranger. It doesn't matter. Smiles, laughing at yourself, finding the humor. And there's so much silly content out there, social media. Find after listening to your podcast, your listeners should go find a silly one. There's plenty of funny podcasts. I'm not much of a podcast listener, but I hear from friends all the time. Oh, you got to listen to this one. This guy's hysterical. You got to hear this. So find a podcast. Go to Netflix every night for at least a quick 5 minutes. Find your favorite comedian, Brian Regan or Jim Gaffigan. Get a little laughter boost and a smile and a laugh before you go to bed. On your commute, you can listen to find funny authors you like to read. There's Carl is a favorite author of mine who has written hilarious novels. And so find the funny, make an effort. And it's not much of an effort, but make an effort to find humor, give yourself a laugh, give yourself a boost, and it can go a long way.
Find the funny. I think that's the moral of the story. Find the funny in you. Yeah.
That's
I,
right.
I think I figured out what the physician burnout cause is, besides the fact they don't know how to do anything else besides medicine. It's the darn computer.
Yeah.
Clicking. It's the,
Yeah.
and I've noticed it because I have medical students. And ever since we implemented the medical scribing technology, I tell the students are quick to go see the patients. And the first thing to do is to run to the computer. And I tell them, sit down. This is important. Talk to the patient. Use the computer, see what medicines they have, what problems they have, but don't type away. We'll do that later. And the medical scribe technology helps with that. So that helps with the physician-patient relationship. It makes the room a happier room.
Yeah.
Story goes, I haven't been to the hospital for about 2 months because somebody else was doing it. And then I had to go. They changed everything in Epic. I couldn't discharge a patient. They moved all the buttons where I used to be able to go boom and be done. It was different. It took me a while to short circuit and reprocess and reboot and figure it out. And I had to discharge a newborn baby. Could you imagine if you have somebody that's intubated that's critically ill? That's why these physicians are getting burnt out, because the computer companies, they just find it important to change a button. Every time in the software that we use for the podcast, they do something to the product. Herb gets all crazy. They move the button again. He gets all, his panties in a bunch. He gets crazy. Tell me I'm wrong, Herb, but you get crazy.
It's frustrating when you're trying to get through something and they moved everything around and you're like, now where do we find that button? But I think burnout is at the core. We've written the ability to write. And there's good studies on this, where people that write on cursive do better in a lot of different cognitive arenas. And they've taken away from us the ability to communicate with each other in a kind manner. And so what your dad experienced as an anesthesiologist, where he could tell a surgeon a joke and he didn't find himself in front of human resources explaining why his joke was inappropriate. People just resolved it. Like in the old days in the schoolyard, if George said something I like him, I punch him in the nose.
Oh, you're a bully.
He learned not to call me that name again in the playground. And what is it that our parents would say? If there's no blood, I want to hear about it. Resolve it amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
And that the school teachers were the same thing. Don't fight, but as long as there's no blood, you guys need to figure it out and figure out what you're going to do when you play in the playground, because the playground ain't going to go anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So figure it out. And that ability to resolve your own problems and to have conversations and to be funny, and sometimes, be funny in the wrong way. And people go, oh God, why did you, oh God, like, why are you so inappropriate? And then you learn from that experience, but it wasn't this total fear of you can't use this word, you can't use that word. If I say good morning, maybe they'll get offended. But if I don't say good morning, they'll get offended. If I smile at them, maybe they think I'm I'm harassing them. But if I don't smile, then I'm rude. And with these constraints of you, no matter what you do, somebody might complain. And
Wow.
that takes a lot of the joy out of the work that we do. And life is pretty simple. I go to Wegmans. When I come to clinic, I go to Wegmans, get my coffee. I smile when I walk in. And it's funny, I smile and people smile back. We don't know who we are, but just the fact that you're smiling, it elicits a smile in the other person walking out. And when I go check out, I do the self checkout with just a cup of coffee, but there's always a monitor there so you don't steal the coffee. I go, "Hey, how's your morning?" And people like, "Great. How late are you working today?" "Oh, I got in at 6. I worked till 2." That's not too long of a day. Plus, it's raining outside, so I'll get wet. You stay here, nice, warm, and dry. And they're like, "Yeah," and they laugh. But that we've given all that up for the sake of being efficient. And we see it in the kids with the amount of mental illness they're having.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes with pediatric visits, the kids are frightened, they're fussy. What I usually do with these kids is my medical student will walk in first and get the story. And then I like burst in the door. "Hey, Dr. Rolu is here." So I go to the kid that's sitting on the table, and I said, "So how did Dr. Reedy do? This or like this?" Ultimately, they always go, "Ah." They're always so happy. I say, "You sure it's not like this?" And they just keep reading. Now I get a smile out of them, and they're real happy, and we develop a relationship, and the kids don't give anybody a hard time. But I would think, do you have any examples of this kind of stuff? You're not funny, Herb.
what?
Like,
No, I'm a pretty serious
I've been
doctor.
seeing humor from both you guys, George and her. I'm seeing, like I said, we got Felix and Oscar here. I'm impressed. I think, I don't know if I was the catalyst today. I've listened to some of your recent episodes and they're very serious and very smart and thoughtful, but I'm seeing humor today. So
So
I'm,
did you listen to Paul's Offit episode where I went to on a rant against the Kennedys? That
that's a little
was
bit.
epic. That was an epic rant.
I'll
That
have to
was it.
check that out.
That wasn't even humorous, but it was epic. And then George's partner sent me a book to read on the Kennedys, and it was great. I was on JFK. It was a great book. I got to give you the name of it because it was a fascinating book. Yeah, it's called JFK, and it's by Randy Taraboli. Apparently, he's written several books on the Kennedys, but it is a very well written book. Anyhow, but I did go on a rant on the Kennedys.
Yeah, you do go on rants. That's
Once in
true.
a while ago there. So now you're doing mostly like corporate keynote speaker, motivational speaker work.
Yeah, I never called myself a motivational speaker. I've been doing this now 20 something years, and I just didn't think I fit the mold of Tony Robbins or, the Chris Farley Saturday Night Live motivational speaker character, if you remember that guy, living in a van down by the river. I didn't think I fit that mold. And yet over the years, people would say to me after a keynote, "Hey, that was really uplifting. That really motivated me to go back to work with a smile on my face and a better attitude and so forth." And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm a motivational speaker. So I've acquiesced to that label now. But yes, most of what I do is like where I met George is healthcare industry. That was a software user group conference, and Dr. Dan Fighton was there. We had a good time. We had a good time in Las Vegas. It was my birthday too. My wife came and joined me. We had a good time there. But anyway, yeah, most of it is healthcare industry events. And so I'm speaking to docs, to nurses, to nursing home administrators, to my event this week is for neonatal and obstetric nurses. And so most of it is healthcare industry, but not entirely. I do events for other groups as well, people who are interested in, again, wellness, laughter as medicine, and those healthy benefits, and the material that I use that's universal about going to the doctor and seeing drug ads on TV. So it fits for other groups as well. But most of what I do is healthcare industry events. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you were
So
very popular at the OP conference. People listened to you. They laughed with you. They laughed at you. You laughed at them.
so do you write your own material?
I do. Yes, I write my own material, and I haven't seen patients in a long time, so I don't get it. I don't get my material from patient encounters, but like I said, I get it from. I go to the doctor still. I take my kids to the pediatrician, so I'm still involved now on the other side. And like I said, I see the same drug ads on TV, and I see the Botox phenomenon, as you mentioned, Herb, and I see. So I'm still an observer and trying to come up with the material all the time.
Is it
Right.
difficult for you to write the material, or does it like you're
Naturally.
passionate about it, so it comes easy?
No, I wouldn't say it comes easy. It's difficult coming up with material. Sometimes it's lightning in a bottle and an idea strikes and I try out a line and it works, or something just spontaneous happens on stage, might be audience interaction. But sitting down and writing is, I hate to admit it, it's something I almost never do. I've been doing this a while, and so I have a good outline of material that's worked over the years. And most of my audiences are new audiences. The same conference isn't going to bring me back every year. They always have a new agenda, a new theme, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to bring back the same speaker year after year. So I'm usually seeing new audience. So it's easy to get a little lazy and just rely on tried and true stuff. But eventually it feels stale to me. So I do try to come up with new material.
Do you have a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel or?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there now, it seems.
Yeah, there are. And social media for me, I have not been good at. I don't like it. Again, to your point, Herb, about being kids with mental health problems and being on screens all day long. That's scrolling. I do very little social media. I tried years ago and it just felt awkward to me. I never could really find my voice on Instagram or Facebook or any of them. And so it was hard trying to come up with something daily or several times a day
Yeah.
that was both healthy and humorous to say. And I don't like it. So I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I've made a few posts this year, and I've had people say, "You're nuts. You got to get yourself out there. That's how people find you. That's how you're going to get booked." And I don't know. I've done okay without
So you
doing a
think.
lot of social media. But yeah, there are some docs out there that are great at it. They're great at it. And they're funny and insightful, and they found their groove. For me, it's not something I've really enjoyed. Social media. I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, like I could be it. Yeah.
So tell me, who is that a Corvette over your right shoulder?
Oh, in the picture.
Yeah.
Are you a car guy? I know you're both sort of tech guys, but are you a car guy, Herb?
Yeah, I'm a car guy. That looks like a Corvette. And then I'm very curious about what all the family is. I'm assuming
Well,
it's family unless it's your college roommates. I don't know.
no, this is all family behind. It's funny because I
Oh, so
normally
it's
don't
not a
do Zoom.
Corvette.
It's not a Corvette. I'd be
No.
impressed if you know what this car is. My dad, aforementioned dad, the anesthesiologist, he's this guy right here.
Oh, what a beautiful family.
Thank you. That was years ago. That is my parents and my family and my brother's family. And we did this picture in front of behind my dad's Morgan. Are you familiar with Morgans?
No. But it looks like one of those, you're too young, but when I was younger, you could buy a car at Sears and it would come in pieces and
Yeah,
then you put it together.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, my dad has told me about those kit cars. I think he called it.
Yeah.
No, a Morgan is a British sports car. It has a wooden frame, and they have been made for, I don't know, 80 years or more.
Oh, wow.
And that's a newer one. But my dad also has an older one from the 60s, or I'm not sure when. It looks exactly like that. It's black, but they have maintained that same body style, and they are made out of an ash wood frame, and they still make them. They look exactly like they did when they started making them. My dad is a sports car guy, a Morgan enthusiast, and that's what that is.
Oh,
A
wow.
Morgan. Yeah.
Oh,
I can't imagine the hassle to get a license plate for that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably a nightmare.
Yes.
all right.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this up with one final question. What is your prescription for bringing more laughter into medicine? What can we do?
Yeah. Again, I'm not the answer for burnout, but I think I'm a part of it. And as I mentioned, finding the humor, laughing at ourselves, seeking out humor, and come see me at a conference, and hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Right. You know, I know we have one doctor that joined us, and the reason she left her practice was because they all had to stay in a room. Nobody was allowed to talk, to laugh. They were there to see patients and not have fun. And that's why she left.
Yeah.
Office, the best thing I think we've ever done was we made one big doctor's office as opposed to the consult rooms where all the doctors sit with their computers. And
Yeah.
I know not everybody's baseball game, birthday party, baby shower, things I don't want to know about, but we joke
Right.
around with them. So I think that creates for a relationship within the team. The way the old school doctors are, where they come in, they go to their office, they close the door. That doesn't make for a fun environment, I think.
No. Yeah, I
So,
agree.
so what's your next conference? And
Yeah, this week I've got the Women's Health, Obstetric, and Neonatal Nursing Conference coming up. And
where is that?
that's here in Denver. That's a local
Okay.
one. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Wisconsin for a medical staff event. That'll be doctors at a hospital outside of Milwaukee. And so again, those are typical bread and butter events for me.
And how do you usually start? Since I wasn't
How do
there
I
at the LP user conference, so how do you usually start?
It depends. I sometimes try to immediately mention something that is unique to everybody in that room. Maybe I don't remember what I first said at Caesar's Palace, but it might have had something to do with, I don't know, Jerry Seinfeld being there, or the labyrinth that is Caesar's, finding your way from your room to the conference room. They did a pretty good job there, as I recall. It was all in the same general vicinity, but sometimes you get lost in that place, right? At Caesar's. So sometimes I try to start with something local or topical or unique to the conference, to the situation. Often the person who introduces me, I give them sort of a sample intro, and they might have, if they follow it, they might have a couple of jokes themselves in there that they use or read, and so I might respond to that, and yeah, and then I get off and running on my material for them.
And
Now,
you just wing it.
do you wear a suit or a tie or just a button down or?
You know, that my wife dresses me. That's my wife in the pictures there. Yeah, these are all family pictures. Again, the listeners can't see this stuff, but I ask her each time. So I'll say to her, okay, this week I got the women's health obstetric nurses, and it's casual attire, and I'm their closing keynote, and here's where the event is, and what do you think I should wear? And boom, she sets it out for me. And
Oh, you're lucky.
yeah, so sometimes it's a suit if it's a big conference and more of a formal affair, and other times it's more casual and I just might be in slacks and a shirt. So I let her make the
Nice.
call.
Oh, you're lucky.
My wardrobe consultant.
Does she
Yeah.
laugh at your jokes or she's over it?
She's over it.
over
She's over it.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Thank
Glad.
you. Thank you both for having me. And I think, again, I'm glad to see you both laughing. See, there's room for a little humor, and you tackle serious topics every week, but there's room for a little humor and laughter. And
Yeah.
hope you
So
continue
Herb,
to
you're in
bring.
your white coat with the stethoscope. Today, I want you to find your funny.
Try to find
How
my
that?
funny.
Can you
My
do that?
funny.
You always tell me how you complain, how, oh my God, it's so terrible. I saw this and that. Tell me a funny thing today. All right. Homework. All right.
Yeah.
And no
Thank you
bunny
very
suits. No bunny suits.
No bunny
Oh, why don't
suits.
you tell
for
us
God's
what's the
sake.
name of your website?
It's healthyhumorist.com.
Okay.
And some people, you get people from Europe and they spell humorist different ways. So it's healthy humorist, HUMORIST, or my name will get you there, bradnieder.com. Even if you misspell it in some of the common misspellings, you'll find it. bradnieder.com, healthyhumorist.com, and you can check out the website.
Cool. Thank you very much. Go
Thank
save
you
you,
very
guys.
much. It's great meeting you.
You too.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been a production of the Pediatric Lounge. On the show notes, you will find links to our co-host and other important notes, as well as a timetable of the topics discussed today. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave us a great review, as it helps us greatly. In the meantime, we will see you next week, the Pediatric Lounge. The conversations are not intended as medical advice, and the opinions expressed are solely those of the host and the guest.